Hello, everybody. It's Victor from Cardiac Wire here with Kevin Lev from TeraRecon and Dr. Tom Semple from the Royal Brompton Hospital. We're very excited to have you join us today, and I'd like to start with you, Dr. Semple. Could you tell us a little bit about the cardiac imaging practices in your hospital and roughly how many annual studies you guys do?
Yep, I'm saying the Royal Brompton, for those of you who haven't come here or heard of us, is a tiny but very subspecialist hospital in London, in the UK. So we're a heart and lung hospital that treats people from before birth right the way through to in advance of 100 years and beyond. And from a cardiac point of view, because that's probably the best theme for here, we treat lots of patients with very unusual congenital heart diseases. We also do a lot of coronary work, lots of structural heart disease work, things like TAVR, valves into the pulmonary position, increasingly newer interventions like tricuspid valves and so on. So lots of structural heart disease bits and so on. It's the full spectrum of cardiac practice, but also in the full spectrum of age range from birth through to old age. The cardiac CT part of the practice is very much my part. I don't do cardiac MRI, but from a CT point of view, we see somewhere in the region of about 3,000 cardiac CTs a year. Of those, a significant portion will be congenital. CTCAs is about half of it, maybe. On the thoracic side of the house, it's almost 8,000 CTs, of which about 1,000 are pediatric. Some of those will also involve some advanced visualization.
Wonderful. Before we get too far ahead with the questions, Dr. Semple, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work at the Royal Brompton Hospital?
Yeah, so I've been here for about 10 years. The Brompton is my NHS job, and I have an academic affiliation with Imperial College. So lots of opportunities to bring research into clinical practice and to focus research based on hot topics and things that actually matter on the shop floor. We have lots of trainees, lots of international visitors, a big presence as a radiology department to lots of conferences and so on and so forth. It's an amazing place to work in terms of breadth of practice.
Interestingly, actually, we actually just did a recent study taking a look at the amount of studies that have been published using some advanced imaging software, some of them out of the UK, actually. And a lot of people have been using advanced imaging software like TeraRecon in over 200 published studies just over the course of 2025. So it does tend to be quite a gold standard for being able to do measurements, particularly in very non-standard cases and cases that require quite a bit of research. We've been seeing an uptick in the usage of that.
Yeah, so Kevin, thank you so much for that background on how imaging software like TeraRecon is being used in practices like the Royal Brompton. Could we maybe get some examples of a use case with an image or two of what that looks like?
Expand the whole thing by a couple of pixels just to smooth it all out a little bit, change the windowing, and we can create a nice 3D representation of his anatomy. If there's a little bit you don't want, we can chop that out without any problems at all. Here we go. Turn around a little bit. So here we are. You can see it's double aortic arch. Turn this way around, you can see that it forms a complete ring in the center. You can see the origins of the head, the vessels, the carotids, and the subclavians coming around, and you can see the position of the descending aorta in the middle. It's a really nice way of demonstrating the relationship of my double aortic arch here with the airway in the center. Other ways of manipulating that same 3D data, of course, we can chop it in half, like this, scroll through it, and show the way that the trachea, which I have independent control over just by selecting it and changing the way it looks over here, the trachea bends a little bit off to the patient's left as it comes past the dominant right arch. That is normal for his anatomy.
So, Dr. Semple, I'm curious, thank you so much for all that background on your use cases so far with TeraRecon. Beyond the use cases, what's your experience working with TeraRecon been like?
The software first, I suppose, and then the company. I love it. I probably couldn't do what I do without it. The ability to work flexibly, to not be told this is what you're trying to do, here is the pathway, do it. But to manipulate the software to create what you're trying to create yourself. It's a fantastic visualization tool. So I could write a 360-page report, or I could show 10 pictures that show the entirety in a way that the surgeons, the cardiologists, the trainees, anyone else who happens to be on our MDT meeting can instantly understand. From a LEF's software, more company point of view, the Bromptons had a fantastic relationship with TeraRecon for a jolly long time, much longer than I've been here. There's been plenty of work on creating algorithms to automatically segment aortas and so on and so forth. Lots of toing and froing between us and the TeraRecon team to develop the tools that we want to use. I think if I'm allowed to say it, it's a bit like having a really big company that behaves a little bit like a really small company. So we can interact in a much more personal way than I can with most of the software companies that I work with.
Beautiful. Going a little bit deeper on TeraRecon's software, though, what are some of the AI enhancements it provides you to utilize in your imaging practice?
Cool. So I'm going to pass to Kevin in a second on AI. You mentioned AI is a big hot topic. In terms of the actual usage of AI, beyond some of those automatic segmentation tools that speed us up a little bit, I'm not a great user at the moment. It's so fast to create what I want to do. And most of what I want to do doesn't suit an AI pathway because it's not normal anatomy. It's not in the normal place. It doesn't look like it should do. So for me, it's more about creating what I want and being a total control freak and doing it myself. But I can totally see how particularly AI-driven pathways that speed things up. So if you are doing a coronary case of somebody with normal anatomy, having instant center lines down your vessels and so on, not having to do a manual calcium score, having that done for you instantly is going to speed you up. That's the kind of AI that makes me excited. Not something that's trying to do my job, but something that's trying to make me do my job faster and better.
So Kevin, I'm curious, we just heard from Dr. Semple about more of the clinical impacts of the software, but I'm curious, with this impact on advanced imaging, what are companies like TeraRecon doing to support the physician community?
So as Dr. Semple had mentioned, we try and be very much on the pulse of what a lot of our customers want to do. Because it's a subscription software as well, it allows us to be able to do fairly frequent updates to be able to account for the nuances in workflows, such as the ones that Tom deals with quite often. That's one of the things that we are intending to do. We also have a lot of research collaborations, lunch and learns and things like that, so people understand the value of having advanced imaging software alongside just general access to imaging via PACS, because there's a lot more that you can do with than without. On top of that, we are also continuously looking for ways to help automate some of the workflow. A lot of the cases that a lot of our physician community utilizes advanced visualization for tend to be those sort of cases that require a significant amount of time and also require a significant amount of effort. So the degree to which we can help automate some of those cases, such as we've been doing in cardiac MR, creating automation and using AI to help both segment and create some of those initial measurements, help speed the process so that the physician can give their detailed input with a lot more ease. We also have taken to working with third-party applications to be able to integrate findings from a broad set of AI enhancements, so that it's not completely dependent on what we can develop in-house, but so the physician community can get the best of what is out there in a curated set of applications that can be used and that can be integrated into the advanced visualization workflow. A lot of physicians like Dr. Semple over here utilize the advanced visualization as their primary workflow for a lot of these cases. So the degree to which we can integrate that into their workflow so they don't have to look at a secondary screen is going to become increasingly important, particularly in the UK, where interest in the usage of AI is rising. And I know we're still working on elements of the reimbursement componentry of it, but it definitely is rising. And another area that we're looking towards a little bit more into the future is the usage of AI, not only on the imaging side, not only so that we can better enhance the workflow of the imaging, but to actually provide a lot more insights into automating how it is that we can summarize patient reports, help with putting that information from an operational perspective into how that information gets into the treating physician at later stages.
Wonderful. I know in your answer now, you just mentioned that there are some AI enhancements coming for TeraRecon. Could you tell us a little bit more about the specifics of the enhancements of your latest releases?
Yeah, so we have actually just recently have updated our entire cardiac MR workflow. And one of the things that we have enhanced in there is automation of some of the segmentation for short axis, long axis enhancements as well. An entire aorta workflow, which is soon to be coming, which also incorporates AI for segmentation of the multiple sections within the aorta, which I'm guessing Tom will give us a little bit of more insights in how that can definitely help out. And we have within our pipeline multiple other enhancements to integrated workflows so that people are getting more out of the advanced visualization software rather than to have something which is completely outside of it. So it's a continuous enhancement so that we can make our physicians ever more efficient and hopefully provide more insights. With the amount of growing cases that we have day by day, this is increasingly important.
Oh, so Dr. Semple, I'm curious with Kevin's answer there. I mean, we know that the demand is increasing, and it looks like those enhancements are directly targeted towards your practice. Could you tell us how you envision those enhancements really helping your patient care?
So one of the things that strikes me as an amazing incident use, we've talked about speeding things up by AI measurements. So a calcium score that's done for you, brilliant. Doesn't take very long to do one, but something that does take an awful lot longer would be TAVR planning, for example. There's an extremely neat tool in the background whereby you take your measurements, you assign it a label. You know what it is. It's the annulus. It's the distance between one commissure and one sinus, for example. And it auto-populates a rather beautiful PDF report at the end, which you can then stick on your system. So if that can all be done by AI with marked out measurements and so on, I'd still want to double check them. And I'm sure the interventionist that does the TAVR would want to as well. But setting up axes, taking measurements, propagating all of those little bits of numeric data into a report takes absolutely ages. To do that automatically would speed things up considerably, which then means you can actually report more. So whether you're reimbursed or not, you're doing more work. You can manage to do more in the time that you're currently using to do that.
Also, switching to you now, Kevin, it must be pretty rewarding to hear that the software your company is working on has such a direct impact on the clinical workflow. I'm curious, what is the vision of TeraRecon for better leveraging those capabilities of AI and helping the doctor?
So I think what we try and do is take a look at it in two different ways. The first thing is that we try to develop AI enhancements to continuously assure that we get more accuracy and speed out of the software that we do. That's where we place our own internal efforts. So there's multiple potential usages of AI. From our perspective, we like to leverage it in the areas that we know that we already add additional value. Intra workflows and providing additional insights within those workflows, whether it be from the imaging perspective or the patient envelope, you might say. And our vision then is to then partner where it is that we believe that there already are very good algorithms out there that can be integrated well into the workflow. Most of the AI that you're seeing out there from a lot of third-party companies is providing kind of a caged report, preordained results that can be brought into a standard PACS workflow. And our intention in the medium and long term is to be able to not only provide the assets that can come from third parties, but find ways to be able to better integrate those into an advanced visualization workflow. As Dr. Semple had mentioned, very often what happens in cardiology cases and many other disciplines is that the complicated cases go into a multidisciplinary team. And the degree to which we can provide added insights into that multidisciplinary team without having to go to multiple sources to source them is a way that we can help augment patient care overall.
Dr. Semple, reflecting on what Kevin just said, what do you see the future holding for impactful AI-enhanced care in your practice?
So I think to keep the two together nicely, that advanced visualization plus AI put together. Looking through stacks of images is radiology or imaging cardiology 101. Like we all do that, we can all do that. The difficulty is getting across that message to an audience of non-imagers. If you sit in one of those multidisciplinary meetings and watch somebody change the axes, flip things around, make them thicker and thinner and whatever, it gets very confusing very quickly. My practice, at least in those meetings, is to show 3D reconstructions of anatomy. And instantly, it's so much easier to understand. But until you really get to grips with the software, it's quite a time-consuming process. So to have some of those automated segmentation models that do a lot of that work for you means that I don't then have to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes with a case, particularly if it's a very complicated case, creating all of the little volumes that I need to create the pictures that I want to get across my message. If we can have that done for us automatically, and even better, propagate those images into a report or send those across to PACS. So I've got a set of nicely curated pictures that tell the story of my patient's anatomy, what's wrong with them, and what I think you ought to be able to do about it. that's so much more useful than the written report.
And actually, I wanted to build off a little bit about that. I mean, you used a very interesting word, which is the word story, right? Increasingly, what we're seeing more and more is that the story of the patient goes well beyond the imaging, right? The imaging is necessary, and it's one picture will always tell 1,000 words or 360 pages of report, as Dr. Semple had mentioned. But more and more often, particularly for these more complicated cases, patient history, a lot of additional information such as biomarkers. What are some of the guidelines telling us to be able to do either those guidelines that are specific to hospitals like the Royal Brompton or general guidelines which are being followed. All of those things take into account. We need to take into account when we're trying to figure out what we need to do with these very complicated patients. And so, the more that we can get all of that into a singular workflow, so it's all leading towards a story that can be told more holistically, is an area that we can add value.
And so a question for both of you now, with that added value mentioned, do you see a shift toward more cost coverage, and kind of for what types of cases would we see that with this type of software?
It depends where you are.
Well, it really depends on whether or not you're in where you're at. And there are certain cases, in the US, for example, we're seeing a certain cost coverage for where there is definitive benefit that has been proven in clinical cases, such as coronary artery analysis, automation of coronary artery analysis. We're also seeing that in FFR, fractional flow reserve. In the world of cardiology, there are other areas such as MR prostate as well. We're beginning to see an uptick in that as well in certain geographies in the EU. For example, if you go to Germany, there is actually a dedicated fund for the usage of AI within particular hospitals to help automate and augment the workflows. In the UK, there was actually just a conference yesterday where there was a whole panel discussion on the usage of AI, and the government is actually debating adapting some of the information coming out of countries like the United States to look at coronary calcium, for example, and potentially have a reimbursement rate related to that. So I think we're just about at the cusp of being able to see expanded use where there is a very clear clinical uptake and clinical value add. And that's where I'll pause for now. Maybe Dr. Semple, you can add some more.
The NHS is an interesting organization. It's enormous. The organizational inefficiencies are legendary, I think, is probably a fair enough word to use. Everything is about doing more, faster, and making the most of the small workforce that we've got. Everyone's overstressed, overworked, and so on and so forth. So I get a little bit frustrated with some of the AI talk that I hear on lots of different bits of media about how this is going to revolutionize diagnosis by speeding things up. It won't need to be seen by a doctor anymore. Everything will be done in 0.25 of a second all of a sudden. As long as you've got one disease and it's imaged perfectly on the scanner that was used to validate the AI model, that's frustrating. This kind of AI, the kind of thing that makes me more productive, that means that I can come to work for the same amount of time and do twice as much work, that I can create something picture-based that shows what I need to say without spending hours creating a wonderful wordy report that no one's going to read. That, I think, is proper impactful AI, and that's what I find quite exciting.
And one thing I'd just like to add to that is that a lot of companies might be able to create AI based off of a particular clinical use case. And I think the partnership that we've enjoyed with hospitals like Royal Brompton is, I would call, more targeted usage of AI, and the intention there is not to develop AI just because it happens to be fractional flow reserve, because that's the hot topic of the day. I think we can be much more impactful by working with the hospitals to find out how we can implement AI directly into the workflow and help those, call it, more minor steps, you might say, but the incredibly work-intensive minor steps, but still minor steps within the workflow, such as short axis, long axis automation and measurements that really make a difference into Dr. Semple's workflow day by day. So that's the partnership we like to see.
And so taking it a little broader, I mean, obviously we've heard a lot about the workflow improvements, but Kevin, can you tell us about what the future of what companies like TeraRecon are going to do to help physicians improve patient care?
So I had mentioned one of the things that we already do are to try and use AI intra workflow, but perhaps recapping some of the things that we had discussed a little bit earlier on the interview is the opportunity of being able to take a broader view of patient care, right? Right now, a lot of the AI applications are doing measurements of some sort or detection, which can or cannot improve patient care. It's still, the jury's a little bit out. But if we can utilize some of this AI to do a little bit more risk prediction, filtration of patients that might eventually lead to more advanced cases and potentially catch them a little bit earlier. Utilize some of those biomarkers in conjunction with the imaging so that we take a much broader holistic view of the patients, I think are areas that the future holds a lot of promise. So there's a lot of discussion now using that at a little bit of a, call it like an entry level, by using large language models in terms of being able to look at patient reporting, automate some of the reporting as well. And we're beginning to see some, even though there was a lot of skepticism in the very beginning to see a little bit more potential productivity gains in that regard. So I think that's a good starting point. But the meshing between large language models, large imaging models, and being able to take the conjunction between those, I think are going to be incredibly helpful over time.
Now, taking it a little more forward-looking with that, Kevin, we're seeing a lot of automation increasing in the PACS world. What do you specifically view as the future of advanced visualization?
So I think that PACS is going to continuously improve for standard use cases, right? PACS is a wonderful tool for being able to access individual images. For example, I highly doubt, even though you could, most physicians are using advanced visualization for chest X-rays, for example, right? And Tom, you can back me up on that or not, but although you could, right? But I think that as time goes on, PACS is going to take more and more of the standard day-by-day workflow for classic cases, whereas particular workflows that require a lot of pre-surgical planning, cases that require in-depth analysis, longitudinal analysis, going beyond just point-to-point measurements, but cases that really require a really in-depth understanding of the patient and a lot of preparatory work for an intervention, I still think are going to be the ward of the advanced visualization world. So I do think for the foreseeable future, there's still going to be a place for advanced visualization, and especially if we can help automate and provide additional insights by layering in AI over the top of that. I think it would be, there's a bright future for what we could do together in the long run. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. And particularly when we start talking about quantifying things, giving a number to an anatomy or to a disease, and cardiology is fantastic at leading the way for that kind of model. There are all sorts of companies that do computational fluid dynamics, that do thickness of left atria, scar visualization, etc. So all of that thing can be quantified, could be presented in numeric form for patients that want lots of data. That's a growing number of people. They have their own health concern. They want their own understanding of their disease process. For doctors treating them, we're starting to personalize our treatments much more than we used to. We're not just treating everybody the same way. We have ways of risk stratifying people and changing our process according to an individual's own risk. The second you turn a picture into a number, reproducibility, inter-observer variability, intra-observer variability becomes so important that actually when we get to that point, we really are data-driven. To have it run by an AI process is absolutely appropriate. You take the human element out of something that actually benefits from not having a human element. It's not diagnostic. It's a repetitive task that should be done the same way each time.
And actually, with the growth of some of the personalization in medicine, some of the tools, historically, AI has been used to be able to be a caged training model, where AI would be utilized to be able to train an algorithm using, call it heuristic methodologies, to be able to get a particular algorithm to work pretty consistently. More and more, you're hearing about personalization in medicine and what can be used to give feedback loops. Personalization can be viewed in multiple different ways. For example, I can do more personalization of the tooling that we have to provide more insights that are specific to a patient. But if I also know that doctors like Dr. Semple over here always does measurements in a particular way, or would like to see their patients in a certain way, maybe we can adapt in time our workflows to the way that Dr. Semple works and make the case throughput at hospitals like Royal Brompton even more efficient over time. So a bit bifurcated, but I think that there could be opportunities for both as we look at more agentic AI opportunities in the future.
Well, gentlemen, I'd really like to thank you for your time today. This has been a fantastic interview, and we're very excited to see where TeraRecon's heading next with all of its AI enhancements for the clinical workflow. I've been Victor with Cardiac Wire. Thanks for watching, everybody.